Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles to Angelo Robles' Effective Family Office podcast, where I look to distill the best practices and best ideas of the world's most successful families and their family offices. I hope to provide thought-provoking opinions and feature amazing thought leaders to our listeners of the podcast with an eye towards the future of the family office. We're really excited about today's podcast. It's titled Boxing Legend, the Champ, Larry Holmes, on discipline, resilience, overcoming challenges, becoming and remaining a champion. And I think that's important. And of course, boxing, which will interplay into all of this. So I know some of you are saying, Angelo, you're getting really diverse on your podcast lately. Well, I think that's good, but much of it does tie back to the world of business and finance. And we're going to learn that from Larry and from how he overcame tremendous challenges to be a champion for a long time. On that note, I'm going to read a little bit, and I could read a whole story about Larry, but before we introduce him, let me give you a little bit of context. He grew up in Easton, Pennsylvania, which led to his boxing nickname, the Easton Assassin. Larry, whose left jab is rated the best in boxing history, held the WBC heavyweight title from 1978 to 1983, the Ring Magazine and Lineal heavyweight titles from 80 to 85, and the inaugural IBF heavyweight titles from 83 to 85. During his title reign, he defended his title against 19 fighters, the second most in history, behind only Joe Louis. Larry defended, as noted, his title en route to a 48-0 record, which was truly amazing. Larry Holmes, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot to be on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to have you on. I'm a big fan and really look forward to getting into it. So what I really like, and I come from a bit of a challenged background as well, so I could certainly relate. In reading a little bit about you and knowing some of your story, you're someone who dropped out of school at a young age and was doing things that were well ahead of your time that you needed to do in terms of driving a dump truck and working in a quarry. And you actually, I'm assuming, picked up boxing, amateur boxing, much, much later than most people do. If you could talk about your early beginnings, Larry.
Well, as I was working, trying to make a living so I could have some money to bring home, I drove truck, and that's what I had to do. I drive truck, make a few dollars, take it home. Boxing come in my life a little bit. I mess around in the gym, not pro, and I was learning how to box. And next thing you know, I met this guy named Ernie Buller, and he started teaching me how to fight. And I kind of got a hold of it. I kind of got a habit to it, so I stuck with the boxing.
And you didn't really get serious about kind of amateur boxing till you were what, about 19, 20 years old?
Yeah. That's what I was. Listen, they beat me up, man. One of the things helped me start boxing is the guys were beating me up out there. I had to get up there and be able to defend myself, and I did that, so I had to go to boxing. So that's another reason why I started boxing.
Yeah, to defend yourself, that's for sure. So you had a good amateur career, if I remember correctly from reading about 19 and 3, and you became a pro, would I be correct, in the spring of 1973?
Yeah, 73, something like that, 73, 74, somewhere around there. Like, listen, I took punches, so I can't give you every date now.
Yeah, don't let Larry trick you, everyone. He's been an incredibly astute and successful businessman. He's just being very modest, by the way. And we're going to get to some of that because I think that's going to be important. But I do want to lay the foundation for what made you a champion. And again, this is from the challenged upbringing, the dropping out of school, but dropping out of school to work, to do something, to be productive, to support a family, taking up a sport which is very technical like boxing, that most people that become champions take it up when they're 12, 13 years old. So you started very late. When you became a pro, I think one of the great things you did was also kind of be a sparring partner for some of the most, and that early 70s to mid 70s of boxing might have been the golden era of boxing. And you were sparring against Muhammad Ali, Frazier, Ernie Shavers, Jimmy Young. I mean, that must have been a great tutelage for you.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna learn how to fight, you learn from the best. And you know, Ali was the best. And I used to drive up to Deer Lake and actually did he wanted to box and of course I was a pro, just turned pro and I wanted to learn boxing and he gave me a job, you know, and then after I got to be pretty good sparring partner for him, he gave me a job with pay. So that was okay with me.
Yeah, the pay part would do it. Now, most people would say that probably Ali's best years were, unfortunately, he wasn't boxing because of his stand against the draft,
Right.
but his fights against Liston in the 60s to the early 70s, for a good sized guy, probably about 6'2", 220, I guess he had lightning, not only good foot speed, but his hand speed must have been amazing.
Well, you know, when I got to working with him, I seen how fast his hands was, you know, because everybody talking about how fast he was, and I wanted to see how fast he was, you know. So when I got in that ring with him, I was challenging him to the jab, and I couldn't beat him to the jab, so I wanted to learn how to throw the jab like he threw the jab with power, and I learned it.
Well, you sure did. And for those listening, Larry's generally deemed to have the best jab of all time. Probably the big two are you and Sonny Liston, who was probably among the most fearsome fighters ever and way older than the age that was given to him when he was boxing. But we'll save that discussion for a bit of a different time. One of the people that you sparred against was one of the most boring fighters of all time. Must have been very frustrating because of his defensive style. What did you learn from Jimmy Young?
Jimmy Young was, like you said, awkward. And everybody who got in the ring with Jimmy didn't want to get in the ring with him no more because he'd either make him look bad, he was punching, and he could take a punch. Jimmy Young was really, really good. And not only that, he was my friend. So, you know, he'd come to my house and stuff like that. And then I talk his ears off about boxing because he knew how to do it. And then it showed you when he fought Muhammad Ali that he was knowing what he was doing. Because Muhammad couldn't do it either because he was giving Muhammad all these different moves and stuff like that. And he was a good guy. Was a good guy.
And really, your big break came probably about 5 years into your career. You would fight Ernie Shavers. And for those who don't know, Ernie Shavers probably was the single best one-punch knockout puncher of all time. Tyson is more of a combination puncher, but for one punch, even more than I think Foreman and Liston, no one could compete with Ernie Shavers. So that was a big break for you, and you taught him quite a lesson. If you don't mind, talk us through a little bit of that fight.
Well, you know, I outboxed Ernie because Ernie was known as a puncher. And even when I was sparring with him, I didn't want to get hit by Ernie Shavers. I mean, nobody wanted he couldn't get sparring partners because he would hurt him every time he hit him. And he didn't know how not to hit you hard. He would know how to hold your punches back. And he was knocking people out, you know, like I tell Ali all the time, since he fought out Ernie Shavers, he's been like wobbly a little bit. He had not been the same because Ernie Shavers done that. And I tell Ernie that too every time I see him now. I mean, Ernie, come on, you hurt Ali. You hurt him bad. That was my man. But he laughed. And Ali was a great guy, and Ernie Shavers knocked the hell out of him.
Yeah, I mean, Ali won the fight, but that was a brutal knockdown back in that fight. Now, let's go to your first time as a champion. That was a very, very tough fight against another iconic fighter who gave Muhammad Ali fits, and that was Ken Norton. So talk us through, as this was you fighting for the belt, did you feel a sense of pressure?
I felt pressure. I felt happy because I was getting the opportunity. And I wasn't mad at Ken Norton because I had to fight him, but he was mad at me because he had to fight me because he knew I had the style that I boxed him to do what I wanted to do. And even after the fight, he wouldn't even say nothing to me. He just looked at me and said, I want to fight. I said, you didn't win. The judges gave it to me. But he was a good guy, man, and he fought them all. He wouldn't fight Joe Frazier, though, because they thought that had been good friends. But with Muhammad Ali, the 3 times that he fought Muhammad Ali, he put it on Muhammad Ali, and with the punching that he hit Ali with, I mean, it had to have some effect to it. Boxing is not easy. It wasn't easy. And I think it was harder back then than it is today. So, these guys got to get in shape and try to learn how to fight if they're going to fight, especially if they run up against a guy like Kenny Norton. Mike Tyson it's okay. He punches pretty good, but he couldn't fight with Ernie Shavers. He couldn't fight with Joe Frazier. He couldn't fight with Muhammad Ali because those guys were superior than all of them.
Yeah, well, we're going to get a little bit to that very shortly. So you become a champion, and then relatively soon after disposing with a bunch of contenders, and again, you have an amazing track record of being a champion and being undefeated, defending your championship, other than Joe Louis for the second longest in history. But you did have a rematch with the before mentioned Ernie Shavers. And here's someone who you significantly outboxed in the first fight and were into about the seventh round in the second fight. But that legendary one punch power of Ernie did knock you to the canvas. What I'd like to learn, and you were renowned for being someone who, if you rarely, but it happens to everyone, gets knocked down, no one put you down. What gave you the resilience to get up?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody put me down but Ernie Shavers, and I had to get up from his shot because once he hits you, man, like you don't usually get up. Ernie was a good guy. I had worked with him as a sparring partner, and I know how hard he hit. I didn't want to get hit by Ernie Shavers. I just wanted to box him and stay on the outside of it. But he hits so darn hard, and I tell him today, man, you hit Ali. You was trying to hurt me like you hurt Ali, but you're not gonna catch me because I'm not gonna stay there and fight you. And he tried to get me into that, get me into arguing with him, so I could get mad at him, so I could be in there and fight him. I had to keep my head on because you get in an argument with him and go in there and tell him I'm gonna kill you, and next thing you know, you get knocked out.
Yes, but again, you had the toughness, the grit, the resilience to get up and win pretty significantly because you won every round except for that one, just like you did in the first fight.
Yeah, you know what, man? I had a lot on my mind because, people was telling me that I can't do it, I can't get up, for Ernie Shavers, if he hit me, whatever. I wasn't trying to prove that I can when he hit me and knocked me down. I wasn't trying to prove nothing. He just got, I can't say lucky either. I don't know what to say on that, but he knocked the heck out of me. And I got up from it, and it was that I got to get you back, was in my mind, and that's what I had to do. Because he hit hard. Ernie Shavers hit hard. When I was sparring with him as a sparring partner, he hit hard then, and when I fought him, he hit even harder then. I don't care what people say. I know Ernie Shavers was a killer out there. He broke Ali's jaw. He the one that ruined Ali. Nobody wanted to fight Ali. I mean, Ernie Shavers.
Yeah, he was definitely someone that people avoided because, again, the greatest one-punch knockout artist, knockdown artist of all time. We're going to get back to the middle and latter part of your boxing career, including against your first comeback against Mike Tyson, and your certainly very successful second comeback into the 90s and even into the early 2000s. But let's take a little bit of a break from that and talk about what I'm going to call the life lessons that you learned in boxing and how it applies to real life. So for one, I mean, getting up at 4 a.m. and running 5 miles and having the discipline, having the determination. You could do that when you're young and hungry, but what made you do that later in your career when you were already a champion? You started to have money, you were rich. What gave you the discipline, the mind motivation to continue with that mindset?
Listening to people saying I can't do it, I can't beat this guy, I can't beat that guy, I should stay in the retirement because they're not going to do me any good. And I want to say, if I don't do at least one thing I can say, I tried. Listen, I just came out with my book, and I put it up here so that you can see it. And don't tell me I can't.
Yeah, don't tell me I can't is the title, everyone. I just saw it.
Yeah. So they can get this book anytime they want one. Just write LarryHolmes.com. So that was a lot of pressure on me. Every time your friends, and especially when you go to fight Ali and Ernie Shavers and guys like that, they they really put you down. You can't beat them. I'm not betting against you. Go ahead, bet. Give your money away. And that's what
Well, you certainly ended up being correct. So you think it's important to find, even if you need, and this is what Michael Jordan was amazing at, he would take a perceived slight against him that was probably really minor and blow it up like that, even though it may not have been quite true. But in his mind, he made it bigger than it was because that gave him the discipline and motivation that appears to be a common thing that I hear in athletes and probably successful people in general. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but in your mind, this gives you the motivation to get up at 4 a.m, to put in the miles, to be disciplined, even though you're already rich and a champion.
Well, you know what? Getting up in the morning, coming out of the sleep, hearing saying, you can't do it, you can't beat this guy, you can't do that, you can't dunk the ball, you can't, and you do it. That's what Michael Jordan did it. And he showed him he could do it. Whatever he set his mind out to do, he can do it. And that's exactly what I did. I set my mind that I can do this. I can fight this guy. I can beat this guy. Because I watched him. I watched the tapes. I watched everything. And I know how to beat this guy. But everybody was saying I couldn't do it. So I had to prove it.
We already spoke somewhat about resilience, meaning getting knocked down and really having a 10-second count to get up or it's over. So not only being tough and gritty, but being resilient. But I would like to bring up something else, how real life relates to boxing. And this is a quote that has become legendary from Mike Tyson. And that quote is, everyone has a plan until they get hit. And that is just so true. And yeah. How does that apply in boxing to you? Like you watch film, you have your trainer in the corner, you have a game plan going in, and then boom, Ernie Shavers just knocks you down. You have to get up. Are you still able to stick to the plan, or did you adapt?
Well, you gotta have a plan. When you get up, first thing you want to do is hold it, because you got to get your head together, especially like when Ernie Shavers hit you. When you hit it, a little noise goes like in your head. And you don't know where that noise is coming from. And then you look over to the side and you see the big guy laughing, thinking he's going to knock you out again. So, that's how you get over it. And that's how I got over it. I'm not going to let this guy get me. I had a song in my head, "Come on, body, don't fail me now." And I went out there, I ran around the ring, went this way, went that way, and that's how I got away from it until the bell went ding. When the bell went ding, saved me. I didn't have to get hit no more that round. I had to wait till the next round, and he couldn't catch me that round either. So I recuperated, I got myself together, and I went out there and did what I had to do.
Many fighters, whether boxing now or more broadly in MMA, which has become more popular over the last decades, 99% of them have a commonality of having a challenged early childhood and background. Because to go into a sport where, in theory, you could die anytime you go into that ring, it must require a certain passion and purpose and dedication to what you're doing. That mindset of being a champion in a gladiator sport like boxing, do you think you would have been that way if you didn't grow up the way that you did?
No, I had to have the desire, determination to do what I did, because, when you got people telling you can't do something, one thing you want to do is prove it to them. You want to prove to people that say you can't do nothing, oh, Larry, he can't fight. He's just a little copy. They just giving him a fixed fight. They fix it over here. But he can't fight, and that motivates you to get in there and do what you got to do. I know what I could do. I know what I was hoping, thinking I know what I'm doing out there. And that's what I did. I went over, and that way I can do this. I told you.
Well, you sure did. And becoming, for the number of years you were, the number one heavyweight, which is the most prestigious division of course, heavyweight. And to be a champion must have been truly a proud moment. But my bigger question, and the old saying in boxing is becoming a champion somehow makes you better. It makes you better because it probably makes you walk with your chest out, your shoulders back. What is the psychological impact of being a champion and now everyone wants to knock your block off and take that title from you?
Well, that was okay with me because that way I could get a fight and I would get paid. They can give it a shot all they want, because that's what I got, a shot to become champion. And when they give me the shot, I won. I took advantage of it. And, you want people to want to fight you, but you don't want people to hate you. And that's one of the things that I did. I kept a personality, man. I kept a personality. And, like you say, I can't do it. Well, okay, I can't do it. But tune it in, and see what I can do. And then that was it. Then but they got angry with me because I said, watch me. And then I say, I told you I could do it. They don't want to hear that I told you. If you work hard at something that you want, you can get it. And I worked hard. I didn't go in the bars and get drunk at night. I didn't mess around with a whole bunch of girls. I just went on, did my 5-mile road work up and down hill. We got a hill called Agony Hill, right up the hill, and back home 5 miles. And I did that 4 times a week. And that helped me get the strength and the stamina that I needed when I went into the ring, because if the other guy is doing the same thing I'm doing. And my trainer, Ernie Butler, he used to say, damn, why you got to do it like this? He said, the other guy is doing it. The other guy is going to be in shape. So what that makes me do? Make me want to get in shape. I want to get in shape because the other guy is going to be in shape. I want to be in just as good shape as he is. And that's what helped motivated me.
We're going to talk about some of the issues that are happening literally right now in today's society, but I'm going to go around it in a little bit of a different way because it's going to relate to it. So in 1982, you probably had your most hyped fight, hyped because the promoters wanted to profit significantly from it, and that was you fighting Jerry Cooney, who they built up to be the so-called Great White Hope, and certainly a good fighter. So no doubt about that. But the buildup into that fight with the tension of the black and white issue, and again, the promoters actively building upon that because of money, what were you thinking at that time?
I just wanted to win. I didn't really think about the dollars or anything else because there was always going to be Jerry Cooney because he was white. He was going to get the most publicity because he's the white guy. He's the only one out there. He's beating everybody, knocking everybody out. So therefore, it's all going to be Jerry. And one of the things about Jerry, he let me make friends with him. I made friends with Jerry. I told her, I said, everybody going to talk about this fight and stuff like that, but it ain't them. It ain't about them. It's about me and you. It's what you do to me out there and what I do to you. So let's have a good fight. And we went on that way. To this day, he never forgot those words that I said to him. And he's a nice guy, man.
Yes, and certainly a good fighter as well. Had a wonderful career.
Good left hook, good right hand. Everybody say he got a good left hook because which I didn't know at the time, was a converted southpaw. He hit you with that left hook, man. That's a good night I ring, And I didn't know that until in the middle of the fight, them guys had told me he was a converted southpaw. I didn't pay that no mind. Because I never had fought a guy that was a southpaw. And then I met Jerry Cooney. And believe me, Jerry Cooney he hurts you when he hits you with that left hook. And he's 6'5" or 6". He's tall and he got the hype on you. And I just took it away from him when I got out there and started moving around in circles and stuff like that. He didn't understand it, but he caught on to it. And then I just took it away from him again and went on and did what I had to do. So Jerry was a good guy, and a lot of people, I want to call him something else, but I won't. A lot of them out there didn't want me to win. A lot of people out there that called me names, wrote things on my mailbox, talked shit about me and my wife and my kids. So they helped motivated me to fight Jerry. And when I got in the ring, and the referee brought us over in the middle, I said, Jerry, listen, let's have a good fight. That's all that matters. And I think that took a little bit out of him too, for me to say.
You were a psychological master as well,
Yeah.
which does bring us a little bit into the issues that are occurring today with the murder of George Floyd, the racial tensions, the rightful marching, but of course the challenges with the riots. What would you say to people relative to, how could we advance as people and not look at the color of our skin, which is something we're born with, we have no control over, and look at the person's character and how they treat you? What are we doing wrong on both sides, black and white?
I think a lot of it is jealousy when somebody's starting to make it with another color, with another people, black people. We had to come so far from behind to get to be where I'm at. Listen, I'm a guy that dropped out in the 7th grade, but I tell everybody I got a PhD in common sense. I mean, I might not be able to read or write as good as you is, but I got most senses you got. But and people take that for granted, advantage of that. But I don't know why people do what they do. Half of my family is white, man. Like my son Larry, he married a white girl, good-looking girl too. I'm glad he did that. But half of my family is white. I got little nieces and nephews running around the house, 2, 3, 4 years old. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, grandkids. My wife used to holler grandkids, but I don't. In the East End, I don't see it. You see it's out there because people got Ku Klux Klans up here on the corner somewhere, you know what I mean? But I don't worry about them. They don't worry, if they don't bother me, I ain't gonna bother them. If they bother me, then I got to go do something about it. I'm not gonna sit back and let people take advantage of me. Your color is your color. You can't help it. God put you in here. You had nothing to do with it. Hey, God, I don't want to be. You be what he tell you to be, or put you here to be. That's it. You're a good guy. He put you here to be a good guy. As long as you don't let that guy in the middle get in there, that's the devil. The devil, he works every day and he works very hard. And if you let him, people let him get into life, it's all over for you. So, I try to live a good life. And I try to treat people like I want to be treated. That's all. And I get all I want out of that. It ain't the money that I got, because I ain't got no money. I tell everybody I broke. It ain't about the money, it ain't about nothing or fighting everything. Because every time I finish fighting, I shake hands with the guy. I shake hands, I said, that was a good fight, man. Thanks, man, let's go. Good fight. And we go to the bar down here and get a drink. Same thing with Jerry Cooney. Jerry Cooney, man, they hated me for days with Jerry Cooney. But you know what? He don't drink. So I buy him a soda,
So how did you address Larry? And you saw it in the Cooney fight with the promoters and with his camp making demands that is really applicable to a champion, which is what you were, relative to who came out first. So you saw all the privileges and advantages for being white that he was getting, and you've had prejudices happen against you. How do you not hold that inside you, and how do you move on? It must have been really hard. I mean, I can't relate to that.
Hey, listen, I let my son marry a white girl. So we better treat her right, because she's a sweetheart. And white people, we grew up in the neighborhood, same neighborhood. We grew up in the projects, and they grew up in the projects. We're in the same school that we went to. And yeah, we fought each other here and there, but it was nothing. It was nothing. It was not, I'm better than you, or you better than me. We was all family.
Mm-hmm.
It still is. And people just got their own way of saying things and making problems and they want to be a problem. I don't want no problems. I want you to live like I live, or better than I live, whatever God gives you. And that's what I want to live.
Of course, of course. Let's talk a little bit about you retired in the mid 80s. You came back a year or two later, and one of the fighters you fought was the before mentioned Mike Tyson. At that time, absolutely during his most fearsome prime. And you were not at that time, but in the 4 rounds, I'm telling you, I mean, you gave him with your jab and your height and your ring experience. If you were a couple of years younger, it could have been a very, very different turnout. But what was it like to fight him with all the hype that was surrounding him as the most fearsome fighter ever?
Well, let me just tell you something. I will tell you, I believe this in my heart. I would have beat Mike Tyson if I had a little more time to get in shape. Remember, I had retired from boxing. I was off for 2 years. And then they come to me, Don King came to me with a big envelope in his pocket, giving me $3 million saying, you fight Mike Tyson. You know, I said, fight Mike Tyson. I said, how long I got? He said 2 months. At first he said 6 months, and then he knocked it down to 2 months. And I said, I can't get ready in 2 months. How can I get ready? I've been off for 2 years. He's gonna knock me out. He's gonna beat me up. He's, oh, he can't fight, he do this, he do that. Talked me into it. So I took the money. And I went out there not in perfect shape. And
No, but you were certainly very noble. So Tyson, a little bit body style, similar to Joe Frazier, short, compact, a swarmer, as they call it in boxing. And he was known, given the training he was getting from Customato and that crew, Rooney, for being the peekaboo style. Did you find that style to be something that you understood to counteract, or it was very difficult to fight that peekaboo style?
Mike Tyson is what you call a face fighter. He comes to you like this, and just keeps coming. And he throws punch, but every punch he throws it from this side. He don't jab like that, and he don't throw no straight right hand. Everything is coming from the side. You can beat that. All you have to do is be first. When he start, you finish, and then that's the way it is. And that's the way I fought Mike Tyson. I wasn't afraid of him because he was just a kid, and he was a guy 4 or 5 inches shorter than me. And with my jab, I knew I could get to him. And that's what I did. But you know what? I never thought my arm would get caught in the rope. I never thought that he was going to catch me in the corner. And all the things that I thought he was going to try to do, he did. And that would put me into trouble. So I didn't have no hard feelings with Mike Tyson back then. I didn't have no hard feelings at all. They gave me $3.5 million, and I was happier. So that's the way I look.
Now,
I got the $3.5 million, and I put it in the bank.
hey, absolutely. That's family legacy money. So you then had a second comeback a couple of years later, which was another intriguing time in boxing history, the early 90s. And that was really the rise in the heavyweight division of Evander Holyfield. And you went, what was it, 12 or 15 rounds? You went the full in your second comeback, much older, with a guy who was at his peak. You went the full 15 rounds.
Well, you know, I got a chance to get in shape a little bit better than I did when I fought Holyfield. But his style, his awkwardness and stuff like that, you know, it threw me off. And I had the best sparring partner that I had earlier. If I'd had the same sparring partner when I fought Mike Tyson, I would have probably won. But he's awkward, throw punches that don't really mean anything, don't have a real good punch. And I can beat him to the punch. And that's what I thought I was doing. If there was going to be a decision in that fight, I thought I won. If they're going to be nasty, I thought it was a draw. But it was nastier than nasty. They took the whole fight. I guess they was tired of me coming back. So that's the way it was. You know, Holyfield didn't have no punch. He didn't have no punch. He have a style that is not good, and that's why I don't know. They had problems at the end.
Yeah, I mean, he did a little bit like Ken Norton with Ali, had a little bit of Tyson's number, and sometimes styles make fights. So he appeared to be in great shape, had great stamina, and had a really good chin. Were those his strong points?
Yeah, that's what he had. He had that. He was a dedicated man. He dedicated himself when he went in the gym. He went in, and whenever he got into the fight, he wanted to win the fight. He wanted to be strong in the fight. He wanted to look good. And that's what he did. He looked okay, as far as I'm concerned. But I thought if I'd have had, and I'm going again, I'm not crying over spilt milk, but if I had a little bit more time or a fight in between there before I fought him, it'd have been me. It'd have been Larry Holmes. And the new heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes. They were saying that, man. And the same thing with Mike Tyson. I would have beat them guys because Mike Tyson was 5'6" or what, 7 or 8. He couldn't beat me, man. I'm 6'3". Good, got a good jab, got a good right hand, and all I needed was stamina and a little bit more, developing it with my punches. But that's the way that go. But it happens to you. Mike Tyson beat me and beat me fair, and I'm happy with it. Holyfield beat me, and I don't think he beat me fair, but he beat me, and I live with it. And I don't hate him for it.
Now,
I wish him the best. I hope he don't go into boxing and get beat up now because he's up in age.
Well, that's right what we're going to get into right now. So your last fight, you were 52 and you won in 2002, which leads me again bringing up everyone is seeing Mike Tyson ripping off his shirt. He looks damn good. Maybe not quite what he was 20, 30 years ago, but he looks good.
Look how good I look.
He has, I don't know, with his white beard, he looks fearsome, a little bit scary. There's something about him that has an intimidation factor. He's 53, 54, so he's basically about my age. Today's current heavyweights, I don't know if it's something that you follow that much, but Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, I mean, they're all good, but I wouldn't say any of them are great. Deontay, probably since Shavers, might be the best one-punch knockout artist, but his boxing skills are probably even worse than Ernie's. Do you think that Tyson could actually cause some damages in today's heavyweight division right now?
About 1 round, 2 rounds, that's it. Some guys that get to Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson's been beat up. Now they know how to go ahead and fight Mike, Them guys are young and they're strong and they know if they get you up against the ropes, they know they got you. Mike got to stay up for the ropes. Mike Tyson on 5'6", 7 or 8, whatever he is. Those guys are 6'3", 5, 6'5". They're big guys, they're strong, and they're young. And they fighting more often than Mike has. Mike haven't fought in a year or 2, 3 years. He haven't fought.
A long time.
These guys are fighting and they staying in shape. So therefore, I ain't gonna bet on no guys because I don't bet on the fighters. I don't think Mike Tyson's gonna end up to be that great. But what Mike got to do, he got to take you and me and fight us. Get in shape, and then he can go out and fight those guys. We got to get paid. We got to get paid. We don't.
It'd be good pay, but it'd be short order of work with me. He'll be over in about 2 seconds. So knock me out. But if I get paid enough, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Did you watch the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder from a couple of months ago?
Yeah, but you know what? They were there. I was trying to tell them and teach them with the jab. They need the jab. But they all know they got those guys, man, those young kids that in the corner that don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
So they used to be able to fight, but they ain't work with nobody like in the heavyweight division and they show them how to fight.
Now, let's talk a little bit.
Mark Mulan is not a great trainer. He can't train them guys. He's only 5'4", whatever. And these guys are 6'7" or whatever. It's kind of rough.
Now, you were very modest before, Larry, unlike many people in athletics and in business that may do good initially for a short window, make money, and then effectively spend it. You actually were very thoughtful about business, about buying restaurants and businesses and buying things that produce you income. What made you, having only a 7th grade education, realize the importance of saving and building something even outside of boxing?
You know what, I'm going to tell you, to make a long story short, I was always athletic, and I was always business inclined to make something, to have something when I'm finished boxing, you know. But one of the things that I did make a mistake on, those businesses crazy. You got to really work with that restaurant business, bar business. You know, you got to work because you got people that working in there that they steal from you and they don't give you, you know, the
Yeah.
right counts and stuff like that. It's really hard to be into their business. So therefore, I built a big 5-story building downtown in Easton, Pennsylvania, on Larry Holmes Drive, and called Larry Holmes Enterprise. Guess what? They get you down there too. So therefore, you get out of that. Put your money in the pocket and then stick it in the bank and hold it there in the bank, and you leave it. Don't bother it. And you leave it in there until you need it. Don't mess around with it.
And that's great advice. How did you deal with the fact that there were probably people around you, from a family to friends to people who came out of nowhere, that they might have good intentions, but basically they wanted a piece of that? How did you have the discipline to not build up an entourage that would effectively spend and waste your money?
They do that. They did that to me to a certain extent till I woke up and smelled the coffee. I mean, they was taking me, man. You know, I was buying buildings. I built 2 beautiful buildings down here in the Eastern. It cost me like $9 million, you know, and I paid it off, didn't owe nobody. But you know what? All that, this is mine, you're bragging about it, fine, but keep your money in your pocket and you have it when it's all over.
Yeah, no, you certainly have been very, very successful after boxing. And I did want people to know that you've been certainly a successful businessman who actually had an exit relative to your business and enterprises in Easton to someone, I believe, in the what we would call the private equity business. So kudos to you. As we're heading a little bit to the home stretch, we'll have a little bit of a comedic moment here for a second, Larry. One of my friends just texted me, Angelo, now that you got the champ on, why no? And you think that you're like this Michael Buffer. So you know who Michael is, but I'm going to explain to the audience. Michael Buffer probably has the best voice ever. And he probably makes millions of dollars a year just being the person who does the intros for the boxing fights. So most of you probably know who he is. So here I go, Larry. This is going to be my attempt at giving Michael Buffer a little bit of a run for his money. And everyone, now announcing the champ, the Easton Assassin, from Easton, Pennsylvania, Larry Holmes. How was that?
That was okay, man. You know, for your first fight, it's great. I will pay for it.
Now, Larry, Michael really has it great here. He makes millions, he ages well, and he doesn't get punched in the face. Boy, he really had a good plan.
I'm putting in for his job in the morning. I want your job, Michael. I know Michael's good at what he does, and I would probably never be able to do it like he do it and make it sound like he makes it sound. And that's what people want. You get a lot out of his voice. I don't know about this voice that I got, getting hit a lot in the throat and whatever. But won't be able to do what Michael did. But he's a good guy, man. He does good. He referee. I mean, he's announced a couple of my fights.
Yes, of course. Well, Larry, it's been tremendous, really an honor for me, and hopefully my live audience enjoys it as well as my YouTube and my podcasting on Spotify and Apple. It's been really, again, an honor and a pleasure. I'm a longtime fight fan. You're one of the greatest in history and for sure the greatest jab. Now, if Sonny was alive and could come to me and punch me, I may not quite say that so quickly, but he's long gone.
You were born at night. You got to tell you were born at night, but not last night. You ain't stupid. You know what I mean?
Hey, no, I hope not, at least. But it's been great having you on the show. I'm going to give a little bit of a close now. So everyone, it was really a great pleasure to have Larry Holmes on talking about boxing, but bringing it into issues happening today, as well as discipline, resilience, overcoming challenges, being a champion, remaining a champion, and being someone, again, who had to deal with racial issues, who had to deal with remaining a champion and fighting in challenging circumstances at multiple points during his career, and also dealing with potentially, again, hanger-ons and people looking to be a leech. and knowing how to be disciplined with that and be successful in business as well. So we hope you enjoyed it. Everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. I'm the host of Angelo Robles' Effective Family Office podcast on iHeart, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and other channels, and the founder and CEO at Family Office Association. That website is familyofficeassociation.com. My email is angelo@familyofficeassociation.com. Rather simply, we're a global membership organization dedicated to the interest of successful families and their family offices. On that note, again, would like to give a shout out to making this happen to Larry Jr., who I've known for a couple of years and who I met through Craig Corral, who's a wonderful financial advisor extraordinaire, who I believe is one of our live listeners listening in. So they're great guys. And again, a great honor to have on. Thank you so much, Larry Holmes. I appreciate your time.
Hey, listen, thank you guys, man, for having me on the show. Thanks my son for going out and getting you guys or whatever, so that he can get me on the show, you know. I'll buy him a beer tonight.
Have one for me too, Larry. It's okay.
You got it.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.